Welcome into Outkick the Show, boys and girls. I am your fearless host, Clay Travis, and I hope wherever you are that you are having an incredible day so far and that everything is going fantastically well and that as a result, you, even though we're going to have to pour one out for the swimsuit competition and the evening gown competition, and your boy is a big pageant guy, it's a sad day all around. We're going to talk about Trump versus the NFL. I'm going to break it down for you in an absolute perfect fashion. And as well, the Eagles. We are going to talk about a lot of different issues, but primarily the demise of the pageant, as well as Donald Trump. I want to tell you off the top here, go to sportsbookreview.com. Make sure you get hooked up right now with everything that you can find when it comes to the odds makers. We have got a gambling event coming up on Wednesday night when the Warriors will go on the road against the Cavs. We also have a big gambling event coming up soon when the Vegas Golden Knights will have an opportunity to extend the series, or the Washington Capitals can end the long national nightmare of Washington, D.C., and bring a title back to our nation's capital. But I want to begin by also telling you, friends, family, coworkers, people across the nation, if you have credit card debt, you shouldn't. Get it wiped out now with my guy, the home loan expert, Ryan Kelly. If you own a home, property values are increasing rapidly. You should be paying 4% interest rate, refinancing, wiping out all of your credit card debt, and getting hooked up now. If you do so, you will be glad that you did, and you will be well on your way to saving a bundle. So go to thehomeloanexpert.com today and get a great mortgage. Tell them Outkick and Clay Travis sent you. All right, let's dive right into this. I'm going to read you several of the statements that are out there about the latest controversy, Donald Trump versus the NFL. The White House issued its most recent statement about why right now they are having a celebration on the White House lawn that does not actually involve any of the Philadelphia Eagles. And the statement says as follows: after extensive discussions with the Eagles organization, which began in February, the team accepted an invitation from the president to attend a June 5th celebration of their victory in Super Bowl 52 at the White House. On Thursday, May 31st, the team notified the White House of 81 individuals, including players, coaches, management, and support personnel who would attend the event. On Friday, the Secret Service cleared them for participation. These individuals, along with more than 1,000 Eagle fans, were scheduled to attend the event. Last Friday, citing the fact that many players would not be in attendance, the team contacted the White House again and attempted to reschedule the event. The president, however, had already announced that he would be traveling overseas on the dates the Eagles proposed. The White House, despite sensing a lack of good faith, nonetheless attempted to work with the Eagles over the weekend to change the event format that could accommodate a smaller group of players. Unfortunately, the Eagles offered to send only a tiny handful of representatives, while making clear the great majority of players would not attend the event, despite planning to be in D.C. today. In other words, the vast majority of the Eagles team decided to abandon their fans. Upon learning these facts, the president decided to change the event so that it would be a celebration of the American flag with Eagles fans and performances by United States Marine Band and the United States Army Chorus. Okay, here is what you need to know about this story. Donald Trump is dunking all over the NFL, all over Colin Kaepernick, and all over Commissioner Roger Goodell. And if you don't understand that, you lack the ability to comprehend basic politics. Trump may not be a traditional politician, but he is very skilled intuitively at knowing how to appeal to his base. Okay? In this story, what has happened is this. Virtually every supporter of Donald Trump agrees with him. Some supporters who are not Donald Trump people agree with him. The majority of American sports fans believe that NFL players should stand and show respect for the national anthem. Trump has intuited that this is the perfect angle to guarantee that his base supports him, and it paints the NFL into an incredibly difficult position. Let me understand that further. You need to understand who the base of these guys is and will be in the future. Donald Trump doesn't have to appeal to the whole nation. A lot of presidents make a show of reaching out and trying to become the leader of the nation. Trump has basically said, to hell with that. All I need to do is win my electoral college votes +1, and I will end up the president of the United States. That doesn't mean he's president of half the states. It doesn't mean he's president of the country without the cities included, like New York and LA. It means he's the president of the entire United States if he gets 50% +1 of the electoral college. The entire popular vote doesn't even matter. Donald Trump doesn't need to concern himself at all with what people in the state of New York and the state of California think. He knows he is not going to win those states. He needs to concern himself with Florida, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania. If he wins those 4 states in 2020, guess what? He's going to be the president again. That's all that matters. If he wins those 4 states, he's going to win a large majority of the rest of the states if he decides to run. He is the president of the United States. So, while giving lip service to the idea that you care about people who did not vote for you has become standard operating behavior for many presidents, the reality is all Donald Trump needs to be concerned about is his base. And his base loves the fact that he's feuding with the NFL over this situation. Moreover, I think Donald Trump is playing chess, and he just checkmated the Philadelphia Eagles, who were trying to show up the president by having almost their entire team travel to Washington, D.C., and then give the Heisman to Donald Trump's invite to go to the White House and instead go do community activism in the city of Washington. Donald Trump realized what was going to happen, made the decision, screw them. We're not going to allow them to send a couple of players to the White House when the media is going to fawn all over them for going to Washington, D.C. and being involved in community activism to send a message of how much they dislike me. I tried to extend an olive branch. I offered them the opportunity to come to the White House and celebrate their title as I have offered any other team that has won a title. And instead, they chose to politicize this event by making the decision to come to Washington, D.C. as a team, and the vast majority of them not travel to the White House. This is Donald Trump dunking all over the NFL and the Philadelphia Eagles. Here is the deal. The NFL is a business. Businesses are not niche groups. The NFL doesn't win if 50% +1 of their audience likes them. They only win if they maintain the audience they already have, and that audience is dwindling rapidly. They have lost 20% of their audience in the past 2 years. And the argument that they're losing an audience while everybody else is gaining an audience is becoming more truthful with every single result we see from all of the other different sports. NBA playoffs, up. NHL playoffs, up. NCAA tournament opening rounds, up. Major League Baseball World Series, up the past couple of years. If all of these events were so incredibly impacted by college football playoff was up, why are all these other sports up while the NFL is down? It's because Donald Trump has turned the NFL into his personal whipping boy, and it has become his opportunity to turn it into a league where he all the time makes one major move after another and denigrates that league and elevates himself in the process. All right? This is nothing else other than a political stunt that was attempted by the Eagles that Donald Trump managed to block and then run to the other end of the court and dunk all over the NFL. The NFL continues to have a ham-handed response to all these situations. Trump invites the team decides they don't like Donald Trump, they're not going to come. The same thing is going to play out with the Cavs and the Warriors. And here is my point in general, okay? Here is my point in general, and I think this is a big deal. I think this is a big deal. Those of you who think Donald Trump is losing here are not intelligent enough to understand what is at play. when you are a business, you have to appeal to 100% of the audience. If you sell sausage and some people decide that your sausage is racist or sexist, that ain't good for you because it might end up costing you business. If you are running for best sausage ever, all you would have to do is get 50% plus one, and it wouldn't matter what anybody else thought of your sausage or anything else. Okay? The truth of the matter is this: Donald Trump is appealing to his base masterfully, and the NFL is falling apart here. And the NFL players are either too dumb to realize this, or the owners have not communicated it well to them. Here's the truth. If you lose fan support, eventually you lose money. I don't know why this disconnect exists. I think it's because this is the way employees think as opposed to the way employers think. If you have a massive business, the NFL is a pie, all right? The NFL is a huge pie. If suddenly 20% of your pie disappears, everybody gets a lot less pie to eat. And the NFL just had 20% of its pie disappear. The problem here is that the players aren't paid on a yearly basis. If the players were paid on a yearly basis and were paid based on television revenue, they all would have gotten a lot less money than they were anticipating. This is like why the hedge fund managers make all their money at the end of the year. Most of them don't have that much a guaranteed contract. They get paid based on how they do over the course of the year. If NFL players were being paid based on the revenue that they produce every year, they would have gotten $600 million less collectively than they did the year before, because television ratings lost, are you waiting for it? Lost 20% of their audience, and all of the television networks in last year alone ended up with less money: CBS, NBC, Fox, and ESPN. They made $600 million less than they had budgeted because television ratings collapsed. What happens over time if the television ratings continue to collapse? Eventually, you make less money. And NFL players only have 3 or 4 year careers on average. They have created a mess for themselves that ultimately is going to end up costing them unless they change their drift here. Here's the other thing. This is a business. And most people who work at businesses understand that if you produce less money, everybody gets less. Players in pro sports are used to only making more money. What happens if the salary cap goes down? You ever think about that? You ever think that maybe we've ended up in an era where we've maximized the revenue that a team can produce in television and a league, and that at some point in time, there might not be a growth in overall revenue? In other words, the sport may peak and players might start making less. How quickly do you think players would beg for fan forgiveness if instead of making $500,000 a year, the league minimum dropped to $300,000 a year or $400,000 a year? If your sport loses popularity with fans, it's hard to win them back. And if they leave, they may never come back, and you may never make that money off of them. This is something that the vast majority of people who talk about sports either don't realize, or they're too dumb to make the connection, or they're just pretending it doesn't exist because it violates their worldview. If you lose 20% of your business in 2 years, every business out there would be having an all-hands-on-deck meeting to discuss this issue. The NFL players seem content to make things even worse. Why is that? I'll tell you why I think it is. Because most players don't pay attention to the overall team voice. They pay attention to how many likes and retweets they get. And likes and retweets are typically coming from a tiny segment of the sports population that cares what you do when it comes to the world of sports and politics mixing. I don't believe at all for 1 minute that there are tons of people out there begging for the NFL to get involved in political related disputes. I don't think there's anybody out there who cares what your average athlete has to say about sports. If you doubt me, LeBron James campaigned all over the state of Ohio for Hillary Clinton. Right after he had won a title for the Cleveland Cavaliers. There was never a point in time where LeBron James was more popular in Ohio than right after he finally brought a title to the city of Cleveland. Do you know what happened? Donald Trump kicked the crap out of Hillary Clinton in the state of Ohio. Do you know why that was? It wasn't because people didn't like LeBron James. It was because they didn't care about what his political opinion was. Because celebrity political endorsements don't typically move the needle. And so when LeBron James wants to campaign for Hillary Clinton, he has every right to do that. But the idea that somebody out there in Ohio was going to change their mind because of LeBron James was wrong. There's always these little mosquito dick people who come in and they say, well, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. Motherfucker. That is like worrying about the total points scored in a 7-game series. The point of the election is to win the electoral college, not to get the most popular votes. It doesn't matter at all. It's like saying at the end of the game, oh, I don't care who got the most points. Tell me who had the most assists and rebounds combined. That's the stat I care about the most. Tell me who had the highest shooting percentage. Tell me who had the highest free throw percentage. You play, to win the game, as one NFL coach memorably intoned. This idea that the popular vote matters in the electoral college era is just like me coming on right after the Cavs won Game 7 against the Boston Celtics and saying, yeah, the Cavs won this series 4-3, but guess what? The Boston Celtics outscored the Cleveland Cavaliers over the totality of the season. Boom. So what if the Cavs advance to the NBA Finals? That's basically what you're arguing. It's a ludicrous argument, and frankly, you look like a total loser when you make that argument, and I just dunked on you in about a minute and a half. I hope you never bring this statement up again, certainly not on this show. I got to tell you, this is, again, think about markets. Few people do it. The NFL has to appeal to 100% of fans. That's why politics are bad ideas. But what happens here is social media gives you an artificial sense of how much your opinion matters, and then it magnifies it, and you think you're speaking to a large segment of the population. People have said, because inevitably, I'm not reading the comments right now, but inevitably somebody will come on and say, well, you talk about politics, and you talk about politics, and boo-hoo. Look, I talk about whatever the fuck I want every day, okay? That's because I created my own business, and that's because I have my own show on Periscope and Facebook, and because I have my own national radio show, because I'm good at talking about a lot of different subjects. But what I understand, and a lot of you guys don't, is I don't have to appeal to every single person. If I were the NFL commissioner, I would never say a word that was remotely controversial. And some of you may find that surprising, but I would understand my role as the NFL commissioner was to appeal to everybody. That if I say anything that alienates 10% of my audience, I have made a bad decision and I need to rectify that because I understand that I have a large audience that I'm speaking to. If I were the CEO of Marriott, if I were the CEO of Chick-fil-A, if I were the CEO of any company in America, I would not come out and make controversial statements. I wouldn't do a daily Periscope and Facebook. I wouldn't curse. I wouldn't have a single opinion that 100% of people did not agree with. If I were an athlete, I would do the same thing. All right? I would want to appeal to every single person under the sun. Maybe. Or maybe I'd be the exact same as I am right now because I wouldn't care. But if my goal was to maximize my marketing revenue, the best thing that I could do was follow Michael Jordan's lead and understand that Republicans, Democrats, and independents all still buy sneakers. And so when I see bad decisions being made like this, it's mind-boggling to me because why don't you understand that ultimately your job when you are an athlete is to entertain? And nobody cares, by and large, about what political opinions you have. Social media convinces you that you should use your voice and that you should speak out and that you should stand up politically. The rest of us don't fucking care. We really don't. As long as you're talented at your job. Which is why the NFL has gotten this so wrong. The NFL, the moment that Colin Kaepernick took a knee, should have said, this is bad for business. This could spread. This could linger. Instead of taking any time at all to worry about this, I am going to come out and I'm going to go ahead and suspend you, just like David Stern did with Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, and you're going to stand for the national anthem, or your paychecks are all going to be sent directly to charity, to a Wounded Warriors fund to support everybody. That's the truth. We have such a limited understanding of things like this that it drives me crazy. And ultimately, look, I will defend anybody's right to say anything. But if you worked at Outkick, or you worked on my radio show, and I thought you were causing me 20% less revenue, do you know what I would say? I would say it pretty straightforward. You're fired. I'm not going to allow anybody to cost me 20% of my paycheck. I don't care what your opinion is. And if I worked inside of an NFL locker room and there was some knucklehead, regardless of what he believed, that was protesting next to me and it started to hit me in the paycheck, this thing would end immediately. And so really, the players need to understand they get 47% of the revenue. If they are burning down the NFL so that they can get political for some reason, ultimately they're only costing themselves. So I'm telling you right now, this is an awful decision, and the NFL is going to continue to pay the price for it. And Donald Trump, because he only has to appeal to 50% plus one of the Electoral College votes, is going to end up triumphing over this. Television contracts are not up for several years. If the teams keep losing $600 million a year, they're going to make less money. Everybody out there like, the TV contracts keep going up, the TV contracts keep going up. Sooner or later, television contracts stop going up if you lose money for your television partners. That's the truth. That's a basic rule of economics. Sooner or later, if you lose money for your partners, your partner gives you less money. This is not, like, the players don't seem to understand this. It's in my book. Again, I'd encourage you to go read it. I think you're going to love it. Thursday Night Football did not sell for a record when you actually break down everything. Okay? Some people out there think that it did. When you break down the value of the NFL draft, when you break down the value of a future playoff game that Fox is going to undertake, the rights fee went almost exactly the same. So maybe people are going to continue to vastly overpay for sports. It could happen. It's not going to happen, I don't think, if revenue keeps going down. Donald Trump's going to get elected president again, and the people who are protesting against him don't understand that they are playing right into his hands, which brings me to story number 2. Miss America is ending the swimsuit and the gown portion of the pageant, and they will now only have a personality test. When I hear things like this, it just convinces me that Donald Trump is going to get reelected. There's nobody out there who, look, here's my position on this straightforward. I'm a feminist. I say the same thing about cheerleading. If you want to do something and you are a woman and somebody else keeps you from doing it because they think it's a bad decision and it's legal to do, that is called sexism. Okay? If a woman wants to compete in a beauty pageant and she has a badass body and she looks great in an evening gown and she has a talent and she decides she wants to win Miss America and you tell her you can't do it because some fat asses feel bad when they look at skinny, good-looking women on television, go fuck yourself. Straightforward and undistinguished as it may be to say. I watch WWE every single Monday and Tuesday just about with my kids. Do you know how many of those wrestlers I look better than with my shirt off? 0. Do you know how many times I've ever thought to myself, these wrestlers shouldn't be allowed to be topless in the ring because all of those of us out there with man boobs and flabby, ugly bodies should have to be able to think better about ourselves than look at ripped wrestlers on the television screen? 0. Do you know why? Because I'm not a goddamn pussy, okay? This is the truth. The same thing holds true when it comes to boxing and men show up in the rings and they are shirtless. The same thing holds true when anybody is swimming in the swimming pool and they're in a swimsuit. Okay? They all are in better shape than me. They're probably in better shape than you. No man out there is saying, this makes my fat ass feel bad. When LeBron James dunks on the rim and runs down the court and decides to flex his muscles, I don't think to myself, oh my God, he should have sleeves. I feel bad because my biceps aren't as big as his are. That's because I'm not a pussy. If you are fat and look bad in a swimsuit, that's not the fault of somebody else who looks good in a swimsuit. You should take control of your own life and lose weight. That's not called fat shaming. That's called have some self-respect and eat less. You are fat because you are not as healthy as the skinny person. You look worse in a bathing suit for that reason. Why should you dictate that the person who looks good in the bathing suit shouldn't be able to do it because you feel bad when you watch it on television? I don't understand this. Make better, healthful decisions. Work out more. Don't punish other people for making the decision to show off their good-looking bodies. I like pageants. I watch them. I think they're entertaining. I will never watch Miss America again, nor will you. Furthermore, the far left in this country that is making things like this, think about this for a minute. They just took the beauty out of beauty pageants. They took the word beauty out of the beauty pageant and replaced it with a personality pageant, which is even harder to judge. How in the world can you decide if somebody has a good personality or not in a 2-hour television show? Anybody can fake that for 2 hours. They took the most objectively judgeable criteria. Do you look good in a bikini? Do you look good in an evening dress? And they replaced it with something that has nothing to do with either and is completely subjective. Oh, this person seems nice. Oh, this seems like a nice person. I like their confidence. I like their self-esteem. You could fake it. Here's the other thing about this, which drives me insane. It's going to end up hurting the overall business. When you take away something that people like and you replace it with something that people don't like as much, guess what happens? Fewer viewers watch it. Furthermore, you are adopting the same arguments that Middle Eastern terrorists adopt, which is women's bodies should be covered and we should not look at them. You are effectively arguing that you should show up and do the pageant in a goddamn burqa. Okay? That's the same thing. That's why I always say there's no political spectrum, there's a circle. And the arguments in favor of the far left now, they are protecting women from being able to make their own decisions, which is exactly what Middle Eastern terrorists and Middle Eastern patriarchs do all the time. They don't let women make their own decisions. I say I'm a feminist because I have this radical idea women should be able to do whatever they want if it makes them happier. If it makes you happier to compete in a beauty pageant, then do it. If you don't want to compete in a beauty pageant, then don't do it. If you're fat, lose weight. Don't sit in front of the television eating Twinkies, complaining because women on television are in better shape than you are. Control what you can control. Don't put as much food into your mouth. Look, I had this discussion with my wife recently. She said she's worried that one of our kids, or our kids in general, think that they're going to be pro athletes and one day they're going to grow up and they're going to realize that they're not going to be pro athletes and it's going to be crushing. I said every single man in America who liked sports at all, at one point in time, believed that he was going to be a pro athlete. And at different points in all of our lives, we suddenly realized, you know what? I'm actually not that good. The country is really big. I'm probably going to have to find something else to do. Learning that you are not good enough to do something that you would love to do is a part of growing up. It's a part of maturing. It's a part of understanding that every single talent you have doesn't 100% mean that you can do whatever you want. I could have spent every spare moment of my life training to be an NBA player. I might, at the absolute best, have been able to play low-level D3 basketball. And maybe not even there. I might have only been able to play high school basketball. That's because I wasn't that skilled at basketball. Everybody has to find out what their talent is. If you're not as good at looking as Miss America, maybe find something else to do. Maybe find another thing to pursue. But don't stop somebody who has that talent from being able to pursue that talent because it makes you sad. I said, look, I remember the exact moment when I realized that I wasn't going to be a pro athlete. 2 times. I asked my dad why he didn't play Major League Baseball. And he said, I was probably 5 years old, he said I wasn't good enough. And I remember having my mind blown. I'm like, my dad is 6'3". He's really athletic. He's really talented at sports. He's big. He's strong. And he's been in my backyard right now playing baseball with me, and he was not good enough to play in the major leagues. I remember my mind just being blown, like, oh my God, how was my dad not good enough to play Major League Baseball? And then another time I remember I was probably, 3rd or 4th grade. I asked my dad what he thought of my athleticism, and he said, you're probably about average. Now, the truth of the matter was I was a little above average in terms of my athletic ability, but it was brutal honesty. Because there's always that guy who is like a senior in high school and doesn't even play on the basketball team that thinks he's going to make the NBA. And at some point in time, you have to face the brutal reality of where your talents lie and what you're able to do and what you're not. I'm not saying don't go for your dreams as much as possible. I am saying if you're 4'11", you're probably not going to be a supermodel. And if you're a 5'3" point guard in high school, you're probably not going to play in the NBA. And so at some point in time, you, all of us, have to recognize where our talents are and pursue the talents in that direction. And this idea that I can't do something because I can't do it, and so therefore other people who can do it shouldn't be able to do it, is something I see happening in our country a lot. And I see it right now with Miss America, and I believe what it's going to lead to is a world where one day we're talking about basketball and there's no scoreboard. And we're talking about the Super Bowl and no team goes. Everybody just goes to the Super Bowl and they just run around on the field and pretend that they actually won the Super Bowl. Competition is what made and makes America great. You have to be good enough at something and better than everybody else in order for the country to advance and for the world to advance. Competition is, to be frank, a completely and almost entirely embraced masculine trait. Men compete in everything all day long, every day, directly trying to find out who the strongest is, who the toughest is, who the best jumper is. All of male competition is predicated on figuring out who the best is. That is innately masculine. Now, lots of women compete too, but it is an innately masculine trait to see everything as a competition. All right? You don't necessarily have to get involved in that competition, but the reason we don't live in caves is because of competition. Because somebody decided, I can farm better than that guy. I can kill more animals than that guy. We are going to be able to be more successful than we were before. And you see it in our national companies now. Apple decided they were going to kick everybody else's ass. Amazon has decided that they are going to dominate the world of retail online. Everything is about that maniacal focus. The level of competitive balance that exists in this country is a razor's edge. If we stop embracing dynamic competition, then we lose the ability to truly excel. And so when I see people telling women who are competing in a pageant, you can no longer do this and try to be excellent in this craft because some people feel bad about their bodies not looking good enough or not looking good enough in the evening gown, that to me is about dialing back competition in general and trying to make the world safer. Competition leads to winners and it leads to losers. And there's a huge segment of the population that doesn't like the idea that something can happen and everybody can't win. Well, guess what? That's life. There are winners and losers. Sports teaches us how to deal with both. And if you can't comprehend that taking away the ability of women to compete in something that they love to compete in is not a hit directly to women's rights, then you don't understand that what you are now advocating for is a full circle, and you are now making many of the same arguments that the Middle Eastern people would make. What has made America great is our credo of trying to be better every day. Being better every day means competing everywhere in everything. It's what the Olympics is about. It's what American life is about. That's ultimately why capitalism exists. When I see people making these decisions to try to limit competition in this country, frankly, it drives me crazy. If you like the show, share it with your friends. I'm Clay Travis. This is Outkick the Coverage. Don't be a pussy. DBAP boys and girls. Go get a mortgage at thehomeloanexpert.com. Check out the gambling odds at sportsbookreview.com. I love all of you. My name is Clay Travis. If you like me, share the show. If you hate me, tell everybody you possibly know how much you hate me. Best free advertising I can get. See y'all tomorrow.